Hi, I'm Gary Mendez, and I'm back with Goran Deak, CEO and founder of TDA. Today we're talking about how digital agencies can respond to the coronavirus outbreak and the future of the agency world after the coronavirus outbreak. Before you started TDA, you founded a thriving agency, and so I wanted to ask you about what advice you might have for agency leaders and people working with their clients today.
Yeah, I would say it wasn't thriving in the beginning for sure. It was a lot of work to make it thriving, but yeah. I owned a digital agency, and that's how we created TDA, and that's how we created a product out of all the knowledge. And I just wanted to move to the next big thing. But I would say from the perspective of an agency owner, and now from the perspective of CEO at TDA, where we see a collective of digital agencies around the planet, we can talk about how the corona outbreak now reflects on those agencies, and what I can tell from my small advice about how to survive it and how to move on from the situation. So let's start from the beginning. What we see now is companies cutting budgets on social media, companies cutting budgets on advertising, and that directly reflects to digital agency owners and people who are working there, especially in the social media department. This is, as it's not an easy situation for the people in tourism and people in hospitality, it's also reflecting on digital agencies and owners of those agencies from the perspective of services that they're offering to those clients. And now we see agencies also having to manage this crisis from the perspective of sudden income drop and sudden demand drop. It's always a difficult situation where you see now that you have the need for your services lowered practically over the night, and at the same time I believe most of the agencies have amazing people who work in the agencies, and they want to keep them. They don't want to fire them because 4 of their clients canceled, 5 of their clients canceled. But at the same time, they need to be rational, and they need to see how they can overcome this crisis they're in now. It's not an easy situation, but I think it also now can help the agents to reflect on their internal communications and what they're doing internally and how they're communicating. And now this a little bit of the space that was created by the unfortunate downfall of clients can be, I would say, now transferred to internal use, and now they should and they can take a look at how they can make their communication better, how they can talk to their customers, how they can engage, how they can educate and help with the situation which is now on the market. I already talked to some of the agencies where I told them this is now an opportunity, unfortunate opportunity for you to see how you can help people, to help them overcome the situation with your advice, with your expertise. Now is the perfect time to create a strategy around it, just for the people to get through the crisis as soon as possible, and also for yourself to showcase that with your profession, with your expertise, you can actually help a lot now, because people and companies are heavily digitized. So I think this advice is now more important than ever, especially for companies. And I'm always saying companies, but it's important both for companies as a business and the company owners as the leaders, but also employees who need to get back tomorrow and continue to work somewhere. So I would say the digital agencies have now an opportunity to reassess what they're doing internally, to see how they can make their communication even stronger, to reflect all the knowledge that they have been collecting through their customers, through their clients, see how they can help the market not only to overcome the situation, but also how to prepare for what happens after, and at the same time make a showcase of how remote work can work now, how their employees are flexible, how their business models are flexible, and try to transmit that energy, knowledge, and expertise to their customers.
So you talked a little bit about, you started talking about the need to be able to be flexible on the agency side. And, do you see agencies as leading that charge and sort of showing as an example of how a company can be flexible and how people can, say, work from home or handle quarantines? Or do you think they need to more follow the examples of other industries?
It's a tricky thing to answer because when we are talking about agencies, we are talking about agencies who have 3 people, 5 people, up to agencies who have tens of thousands of employees. So it's not an easy question to answer just like that. But I would say that just from the business perspective side of things, agencies are already operating partially or fully on a basis of a flexible model, so they're reacting pretty well to it. I would say more difficult end would be on digital agencies who were transformed, who are older from the foundation perspective, and who transformed from traditional to digital, and now they're digital but not still truly digital. They'll have a bigger challenge with their business models and how they're operating, and that's usually bigger companies. So I think this will also force them a little bit to think about even more flexible models, even more adaptation of speed in their processes, and at the same time for the small guys to now prove and showcase that flexibility is one of their core values that they're offering to clients. Because if we're talking about small and mid-sized agencies, one of the key things that they're selling is flexibility and speed of execution. And what bigger agencies can showcase is the strategy perspective. They should be leading the way of educating. The first question that I answered, they should be leading the way of educating the market how to overcome this crisis, how to communicate efficiently, educate the market, how to manage their digital presence in a proper way in the crisis situation, and how to prepare for the situation after. And I think they should be the ones who are leading the way, who are plowing the path for that. So I think it doesn't matter if you're small or a big company, small agency, big agency. You have core values and key strengths that you can now show the market and help your existing customers, and help all the businesses to overcome the situation where we are now.
Let's talk a little bit about recovery. And, we know that right now agencies are dealing with shrinking client lists, shrinking budgets. At some point, we would hope that will reverse, and some agencies will have to ramp up quickly. Do you have any advice for them on sort of how to manage that from both a staffing perspective, but also from just sort of an organizational business perspective?
It's
a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question, and it depends on I think individual situation from the agency owner perspective. But I would say that the flexibility that was introduced in the agency model, and flexibility with working from home and working outside of the office, is something that really helps. I completely agree with you that the current situation is something that we already had the crisis on the markets where companies were going down, but that was from the economical standpoint of banks going down and situation that was happening in the crisis before. But now, first time we have a crisis which doesn't have to do anything with the economy from the perspective of businesses were doing bad. Actually, businesses and markets and everything was going in a really, really good direction, which is even more unfortunate. But that was the situation before the Corona crisis struck. So I would say that this heavy dip that we see on the market and the crisis on the market is now reflected on all businesses. But I think digitalization and how agencies are operating is something which will need to showcase now that after this crisis you can ramp up fast. So that you can go back fast, then you can wrap up fast. And the support for that is increase in sales. And increase in sales comes from the marketing activities and everything that you're doing, because marketing activities is also putting belief in the user's perspective, customer's perspective, that they can spend now, they can increase, they can invest, that reinsurance factor is also a part of marketing and pre-sales activity and sales activity that you're doing. So I think that after everything stops from the Corona perspective, which is bound to stop at some given moment, it will be a lot of strain on the marketing world to start producing again. And I think clients will be expecting results very fast, even faster than usual, just from the perspective of their businesses taking a serious hit. So the situation for the agency owner is even worse from that perspective, because on one side you need to be responsible about your costs and everything. On the other side, you need to prepare for this coming period where you're for sure going to need more of the resources, be it from the employee perspective or just from the perspective of answering to market demand after this. So my answer to this is I really don't know. I would say it depends on the individual basis of a business, but for sure I'm expecting that it will be a big pressure on agencies after this crisis stops, and clients will be even more demanding for quick solutions than they were now.
Talking about recovery again, when the recovery happens, and I'm being positive and saying when, there's going to come a time when agencies are going to have to go back out and acquire some more diverse range of clients than they might have in the past, just to sort of stabilize themselves and crisis-proof themselves. What are some good ways that they can do that, where they can reach out to a different group of clients and have a broader range of clients?
It's going to be definitely interesting, because now you're going to have even traditional businesses thinking about how can we adapt and how can we make ourselves more crisis-proof, and how can we make our business models more flexible, more digital, which means that you're going to have more clients thinking about that from the agencies to companies perspective, which means that agencies first and foremost have to be on the brink and provide ideas how the client can do that, and then being able to actually produce them. And I would say one of the ways that I've been building how we can connect that was definitely through TDA, because the whole idea of TDA was creating a unified market where borders don't mean anything, where agencies can meet clients from different parts of the world. And I think this now showcases a real need for the future that could really happen and ramp up even in a bigger scale than is happening now, just from the perspective of everything that is happening. And agencies need a medium, a way how first and foremost they can educate, and how they can put ideas into clients' minds. And after that, ways how they can reach to those clients and basically engage with those clients from the idea perspective to we can actually do it for you guys. And one of my core values when I was creating TDA, and I was putting it in my head from all the experiences that I had as a digital agency owner, was in mind with that. So it was in mind, I want to create a solution which will help agencies showcase their expertise, not only expertise, but also help them to create new ideas for the market. And then after that, connect them with that market and make sure that businesses on one side know about agency on the other side, and also have a medium, a way of connecting. And I would say this is the way of the future, because now you're gonna have clients think about how can we make our user base more, our client base more resistant. And one of the ways how you can make it more resistant is if you create a service, if you create a product which is geolocationally wider spread. And the only way how you can spread it around is having different agencies in different places with the expertise that you need, and reaching out to them. And how will you communicate with them? You know, there isn't an efficient way on the market, and that's why I said, and why we said here in the company, okay, we have something really great that we can create for the market, and we have something that will support education on one side and just, you know, creation of new ideas. And sometimes I see TDA, you know, as a kid who is playing in the sand and is creating a castle and coming up with different ideas how to build new stuff, or a kid who is playing with Legos and, you know, someone is saying, this Lego needs to be a castle, and the child produces a spaceship out of it. And the same thing we want from digital agencies, to provide a place where they can showcase their ideas, they can showcase what can be done, and put ideas into companies' mind, especially within digital transformation, and providing more resistant products for crises like this. And at the same time, you know, provide a place where they can go out and buy those Legos, if that makes sense.
Great. That really that ties it together. Thank you.
Yeah.